Good morning. Welcome to the worship service of the First Unitarian Church of Hobart, where we strive to put love at the center of how we show up in the world. So each week, during our Sunday morning worship services, we join together in affirming that love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. This is its prayer, and this is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Since not everyone can attend in person, we're streaming this worship service online, and we extend a special welcome to all of those joining us virtually. The joys and sorrows portion, however, is private, and we will temporarily pause the streaming. Other than that, the service will be recorded and be available on our website for future viewing. This morning, we are hearing from our fellow congregant, Ruth Halstead. Now please turn off or silence your devices, and as you do, allow yourself to enter into sacred time together. Take a breath. And another. And join us in the spirit of reverence. I invite you now to join me in a reading out loud, responsive reading on the screen. I will read the regular text, and I invite you to join me in reading the blue text. To laugh is to risk appearing the fool. To weep is to risk appearing sentimental. To reach out for another is to risk exposing our true self. To place our ideas or dreams before a crowd is to risk loss. To love is to risk not being loved in return. To hope is to risk to try to risk failure. To live is to risk dying. Universalism. It should suggest the transformation that takes place when we are held within religious community. When we light a chalice in worship, we illuminate a world that we feel called upon to serve with love and a sense of justice. Please join me in the lighting of our chalice by reading together the words on the screen or in your order of service. We gather this hour people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
So this morning we'll be welcoming some new folks to join our congregation. So we're going to invite up so you're going to invite some folks up who will be signing the book and receiving a little gift offering. We'll join in a little ritual to welcome them into our fold.
There are a few that couldn't make it today, but I'll read their names anyway. Otherwise, if you're here, please come up if you can. In alphabetical order: Corbin,
Welcome, folks. So today we're going to welcome these new members who have chosen to make a commitment to this congregation by signing our membership book. And so I'm going to ask them a few questions and see if they assent. And then I'll ask you all a few questions and see if you all assent. So our new members, we are so glad to have you here with us and that you've chosen this community of fellow seekers to travel with on your life journeys. Will you accept our gifts of fellowship, discovery, and service? Will you offer us your unique presence and gifts? Will you add your name to the long history of Unitarian Universalist people who spread hope with our living faith? And will you engage with us as we seek to create a community and a world dedicated to love and justice? If you will, say, we will.
We will.
Excellent. And so for you all, congregation, will you welcome these new members with warmth and comfort to your fellowship? Will you seek to add your strengths and talents to the new gifts that they bring us? And will you share our triumphs and struggles as our community grows and changes? If so, we will. Beautiful. So let us say together again the covenant of this church, which is in your order of service, the affirmation of faith, the promise that we make to each week to ourselves and to each other, which holds our community together with common purpose and common love in the midst of our beautiful diversity of belief. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. Service is its prayer. And this is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Beautiful. So another round of applause for these new members joining the congregation. Excellent. We welcome you into our covenanted community. So glad to have you with us on the journey. And as things move along, please reach out to myself or anybody else in the congregation to make connections and for any questions or support that you might have. And of course, we are a covenanted community. We don't gather together around creed, around a set of beliefs we're supposed to ascribe to, but rather the covenants that we make with one another and with the larger congregation. So as we do each week, we'll be doing a re-covenanting where I'll read a few lines of our covenant and I'll ask you to respond with, may we forgive ourselves and each other and begin again in love. Because this whole practice of covenanting, inevitably we're going to be imperfect, we're going to stumble day to day, and that's totally fine. And the conscious spiritual practice is coming back into covenant with each other. So for all the ways that we have neglected to participate in the life of our congregation, may we forgive ourselves and each other and begin again in love. For all the ways that we have not supported the goals of this congregation, may we forgive ourselves and each other and begin again in love. And for all the ways that we have not accepted and civilly engaged with challenging situations, may we forgive ourselves and each other and begin again in love. So after having welcomed some new folks into the fold and after re-covenanting with each other, I invite you to just turn and greet these beautiful folks. Maybe wave your hand or smile at them, or also the folks who are joining us on the other side of the screens at home over YouTube or Zoom. Beautiful. And then I invite you to rise and body your spirit and join in singing hymn 168, One More Step. Please be seated. In between our... Could we turn them? There we go. Hello, everybody. So each week we have an opportunity to share with each other what's been on our hearts since we last saw each other, whether it was last week, whether it was a month ago, whether it was 6 months ago, or however long. And so I'm going to come around with the room with the microphone and invite you to share joys or sorrows that are sitting in your hearts. And if you have something to share with us, please just let us know your name so that we know who you are. So does anybody have a joy or a sorrow to share this morning?
Hi, I'm Steph.
May we continue to weave together the fabric of this community. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our doxology.
I invite you now to join me in reading aloud the responsive reading on the screen. I will read the regular text and invite you to join me in reading the blue text. Let me not pray to be sheltered from dangers, but to be fearless in facing them. Let me not beg for the stilling of my pain, but for the heart to conquer it. Let me not crave in ancient fear to be saved, but hope for the patience to win our freedom. Grant me that I may not be a coward, feeling our mercy in my success alone, but let me find the group.
Today's story for all ages is What Do You Do with a Problem? By Kobe Yamada and illustrated by May Bessam. I don't know how it happened, but one day I had a problem. I didn't want it. I didn't ask for it. I really didn't like having a problem, but it was there. Why is it here? What does it want? What do you do with a problem, I thought. I wanted to make it go away. I shooed it. I scowled at it. I tried ignoring it, but nothing worked. I started to worry about my problem. What if it swallows me up? What if my problem sneaks up and gets me? What if it takes away all of my things? I worried a lot. I worried about what would happen. I worried about what could happen. I worried about this, and I worried about that. And the more I worried, the bigger my problem became. I wished it would just disappear. I tried everything I could to hide from it. I even found ways to disguise myself, but it still found me. And the more I avoided my problem, the more I saw it everywhere. I thought about it all the time. It didn't feel good at all. I couldn't take it anymore. This has to stop, I declared. Maybe I was making my problem bigger and scarier than it actually was. After all, my problem hadn't really swallowed me up or attacked me. I realized that I had to face it. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a catapult back there. He's building for himself. So even though I didn't want to, even though I was really afraid, I got ready and I tackled my problem. When I got face to face with it, I discovered something. My problem wasn't what I thought it was. I discovered it had something beautiful inside. My problem held an opportunity. It was an opportunity for me to learn and to grow, to be brave, to do something. It showed me that it was important to look closely because some opportunities only come once. And now I see problems differently. I'm not afraid of them anymore because I know their secret. Every problem has an opportunity for something good. You just have to look for it. Thank you.
Now please rise and bow your spirit for our middle hymn, number 318 in the great hymnal. We
Hi. Hi, everyone. So, boy, it's been a week since we've seen each other. The inauguration of a previous president, a Nazi salute on public television by Elon Musk. Marco Rubio suspending passports of 14 million Americans who identify as transgender, increasing deportations from Chicago, and those deportation flights happen in our backyard in the Chicago airport. Our local school systems in Gary going from public to private charter schools, threatening free education promised to our children under the Indiana state constitution. Pete spoke of this bill, H.R. 1136, last week during the announcements. And there is talk of canceling FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, so in times of natural disaster like the current California wildfires devastating hundreds of families, federal aid may not be available. The attempt to reverse both DACA and protection under the 14th Amendment of our U.S. Constitution, DACA being the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals in the U.S., allows for these children to have a clear path to citizenship. And the 14th Amendment promises that if you were born into the United States, you are guaranteed citizenship. Thank goodness the courts so far have been ruling in favor of keeping the 14th Amendment. Also, all this week, the employees of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, DEI Department of the federal government were fired. So, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So much of what our religion stands for is not valued under this returning president's administration. I just want to point out, diversity, equity, and inclusion is all in our 6 I think they're called principles now. What are they called? Help me. Sources. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With love in the center, of course. So also there is the executive order for the Justice Department to suspend and enforce civil rights. Our freedom of information and speech is being threatened with TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram ramping up their censorship for personal political favors. The Environmental Protection Act is still being chipped away at. Roe versus Wade is still overturned, severely limiting women from many forms of reproductive health care, not just abortions, but basic health care needs of women. And the pardoning of January 6th insurrectionists that defiled our sacred nation's capital. I just feel like nothing's sacred to this administration. Reverend Marianne Buddhist appealed to our president, with a plea, a gentle, respectful plea, to be mindful of transgender kids who are scared. He had to hear that as an attack and insulted her when the media asked him about it. So nothing is sacred. And these are just some of the headlines of what's going on currently. It feels like chaos, like that book with the problem, right? It does not feel good to have so much come at all of us at once. It does not feel good to have good and decent things attacked. I assume life will feel chaotic for a lot longer than any of us would like. So where do we go from here? I'm tempted to stay under the covers, like I have been for the last 4 years, from the previous 4 years before that. The pandemic and how the pandemic was handled, that felt like chaos. We're all still recovering. I'm not sure if now's the time that I want to pull my head out from under my safe, warm covers. I do not want to rise out of my bed most days. I have no enthusiasm for the next 4 years. And I cringe just thinking about it. And this service was hard to prepare for because it brought up what I am grieving and what we are losing. So I wasn't sure if I was the right person to be so inspiring today, or right now. But I would bet I'm not alone in these feelings.
No, you're not alone.
Thank you.
You're not alone.
Thank you. Thank you. It is tempting to go back into denial or ignorance, but I can't. These feelings of despair and these problems in our community, country, and the world are not going away. And my guilt is getting bigger and bigger if I don't get up, like that boy in the story. It's feeling like a storm inside of me. Can I make a difference if I get out of bed? What would I do anyway? What real power do I have? What difference can I make? I want to make a difference, though. I want to try. Excuse me. So, if any of you are feeling like I've been, sounds like you are, where do we go from here? I am also very, very grateful that Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday was this week. I was listening to some of his sermons, preparing to teach the children with Marianne. And he is a prophet of God's word. And I am comfortable calling Dr. King a prophet. Maybe he's not, but I am. Because he had a vision, a dream that he shared for the future. He called our great nation out for violence and terror we brought against our darker-skinned brothers and sisters. Pastor King unapologetically and boldly called our nation to repentance, and he did it in love and with nonviolence. Calling someone out in love is a kindness, because violence is not good for anyone. Violence sickens the soul, and our great country has been sick for a long time. We are better for Dr. King's bravery, his boldness, his prophetic voice, holding light-skinned people in our nation's leaders accountable. Laws changed because of his vision, his strategies that organized people from all faiths and races. He did not do what he did alone. He could not have done it. And there were many people organizing right along with him, marching, praying, crying, singing. They were from many faiths, and they lifted each other up in unimaginable hard times. So our country and the world needs prophets still. People to share their dream of a better tomorrow, to give hope to children that they will have a safer place than we have inherited. The world needs people to call out evils of our day, to organize around making those dreams come closer to reality. The world needs love, healing, and nonviolence to bind up the broken and offer solace and compassion in order to gain strength for another day. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s work continues in all of us. I am the fifth of 5 sermons or talks by our congregants about the book, A People So Bold, Theology and Ministry for Unitarian Universalists. I love the title before I even read the book. It really called to me. To give a taste of what has been said in the past sermon so far, our Unitarian Universalist Church sets out to be one of those prophetic voices in the world, calling out evil. Sandy talked about this 4 weeks ago. Our prophetic religion, as we all use our voice to call out evil. Barb talked about evil from the pulpit 2 weeks ago. So what is evil? I used to think that was a complicated question. But everything in this book has helped me summarize the definition. Evil is sexism and racism under capitalism. Does that sound right? Evil is sexism and racism under capitalism. To be clear, when I say capitalism, we're not talking about buying and selling things. We are talking about the exploitation of workers. Maggie talked about the evil of capitalism last week. the business owners hoarding the profits that the workers create to the degree that 1% of the population has 30% of the wealth in our country, and 50% of the population have 2.6% of the wealth. So 75% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. The Earth's resources contribute 80 cents to the dollar of the wealth created, our Earth. 80 cents to the dollar, even before human labor comes into play. So we will lose her sacred resources if we are not giving back and cleaning up. Keeping us all in a state of scarcity is the trick of capitalists. So we are desperate for the job and are accepting exploitation just to keep the job. Capitalism does not function without unpaid labor of women and without setting the working class against each other along racial lines. Pastor Tom has said in one of his earlier sermons with us that liberal churches are the last places capitalism can be criticized from the pulpit. So let's preach. The military and police sometimes are deployed to protect property. The propaganda that anyone is less than, propaganda that anyone is less than works to dehumanize each other. It breeds mistrust and leads to justifying violence, all in the name of protecting and serving. But what are the military and police actually protecting? They are protecting property, material things. Property over people, profit over people. And when you see it, you see it. Maybe you don't see it yet, but capitalism is evil. Women, LGBT people, people with disabilities, people of color, and the earth suffer. Men are not immune to being oppressed. If a man wants to share his discouragement, anger, feelings of despair around the ways he is oppressed, then he might be met with, suck it up, you're weak. You're a privilege, what do you know about oppression? Men get put down and dismissed as if men are not allowed to have the whole of their feelings without fear of violence and dismissal as well. David talked about this in his sermon 3 weeks ago. David emphasized that our feelings are valid and important. They inform us about what we need, and we all deserve to have our basic human needs met without fear of violence. Now I think I've summarized the problem, racism, sexism, and capitalism, and we've summarized how we all suffer from it. So where is the opportunity in these problems? The articles in this book say that the antidote is community. My talk came from Martin Luther King's the title of his last book before he passed away. Where do we go from here, chaos or community? The answer is community. It's always been community. Capitalism forgets that life is social. We are social beings. A people so bold says we need each other. We are a covenanted people. We covenant with each other to be in right relations, to show up for each other, to give solace when we are suffering, and to hold each other accountable. Congregations thrive when creating safe environments of mutual accountability, and then we can take risks together. It can be overwhelming, so let's take it step at a time. What is our personal next step? And then what is our congregational next step? I don't have the answer for you in that. I think that's something we still need to figure out. We still need to work through. But in A People So Bold, it kind of gives us a little bit of a map. they say that social justice work in church is important. I think this is what I was missing my whole life in my church. They had the prophetic voice, they had the scriptures, they had the boldness, they had the youth going out on missions with such boldness because they were given the authority from the prophets, from God, from the prophets in the scriptures, the call to repentance. We were called to preach repentance and saving our souls and purifying ourselves through Christ. And I love that. I love that energy. I love the boldness. I don't know if any of you have seen the musical, The Book of Mormon. I mean, it's the beauty and innocence of the youth and just carrying that mantle of that calling and that responsibility. I was a missionary, John was a missionary for the church. We've since left the church because there was always this nagging feeling in our gut, just something wasn't right. And I think I have found why that church is just not it's the wrong place. Because it doesn't call out the evil in this life. The racism, the sexism, and capitalism. In fact, it just so perpetuates it. And so many churches do. Our church needs to hold on to social justice. In the book, it talks about it being the core of our religion. I mean, that resonated with me. It was like, yeah. I mean, I always thought that, like, social justice was a component of Unitarian Universalists where you can believe whatever you want. And yeah, we are here to accept whoever, wherever you are in your wokeness, whatever religion you're coming from, whatever level you're at, whatever level of suffering under oppression you're at, we are here to accept you. And we're not always great at it, but that's our goal, to listen and to lift each other up in that suffering. And then we build trust with each other. Because if we are going to be a people so bold, and we're going to fight this huge American sickness, we need each other. We can't do it alone. Like, capitalism wants us to believe that we're individuals, that we will succeed or fail as individuals, and we will not. We will succeed as people, and we will have our failures. We will get discouraged. We won't want to get out of that bed or rise, but we will rise for each other. We will. Because we are called to do so. We are not just a wishy-washy religion. And that's why I'm so grateful for this book. Like, we now have a doctrine. It is love. Love is the only doctrine of this church. We have a calling to fight evil in the world. We can name it. Like, I'm so grateful this book helped me name it. And together, with that energy, we can ebb and flow in that energy individually, but collectively, we have that energy. What are the next steps for you personally? I don't know. What are the next steps for us as a congregation? I know we're doing a lot already. I don't think we need to completely reinvent the wheel. I mean, Pete mentioned a bunch of stuff in the Joys and Sorrows that we're doing, but we have Spirit Circle downstairs in the basement, 10 o'clock every Sunday, and this is a good example of a listening space with no judgment or crosstalk. Thank you, Pete, for setting up the group this way. I know John, among others, have been asking for that change for a while. So we have more participation and more sharing of personal stories there now. We take turns facilitating, picking, and reflecting questions. It feels more democratic. And I have enjoyed getting to know you all better because you're sharing more personal, vulnerable things. So raise your hands if you've participated in the Spirit Circle downstairs. And raise your hand if you have facilitated the Spirit Circle downstairs. Thank you. That's always an invitation to take your turn. This might be a non-church affiliation, but I just hear great things about the Zen group that Jerry offers on Thursdays at 7 p.m. and Saturdays at 8 p.m. These groups help all the participants be better at challenging their inner peace and managing anxieties better. I'm sure he can say it in more poetic words than I can, but that's just how I view it's doing. So raise your hand if you participated in the Zen meditation groups. Yeah. We have the Women's Circle, 4th Friday at noon. This is on Zoom. I have not attended this yet, but I have wanted to. I have participated in women's circles in the past, and it's very healing to find support among women. It reminds me of the 60s when the women's gathered and told their stories and really found solace and awakening and of their oppression and kind of next steps for them in how to organize and move forward. I heard there might be a men's support group getting started soon, but I think that's a rumor. I'm not sure if it's actually happened. I think it's still an idea out there. I think it would be a great idea. I won't lead it. Someone started a potluck and game night. I'm not sure who started that. Who started that? Who? Oh, the pagans. Way to go, pagans. It's the first Friday of the month at 6:30 p.m. here at the church because we need laughter and fun. I think everyone's invited. You don't have to be pagan, I assume, right? And I really love games, and I would like to participate in that as well. I need some fun. The hospitality committee feeds us. Thank you, Roz. The IT tech people keep us organized and spreading our word to the larger community. Thank you, James and Tracy. The music committee uplifts us with music and inspires us with comfort. Thank you, Jeremy and the choir. And Joni, thank you. So we're building trust in our way. And I think the next thing that I wanted to talk about is how, as a covenanted people, we hold each other accountable. I don't think that we're evil, but I do think that we don't always understand how we might perpetuate some of these stereotypes or less than or mentality. And I think it's important that we lovingly hold each other accountable. And that just means speaking up with each other. And I hope that we don't get defensive. If someone does, that we may listen to what they're trying to say and learn and grow. That problem is an opportunity to learn and grow. Now, as a church, to move out into the world, the book talks about we need to have reflection. We need to have a process, because action without reflection is not a church. Reflection without action is a monastery. And action without process is not a community. So we need to gather together and really start some reflective conversations about how to focus our energy, how to focus our resources. There's so much that we could be doing. It's overwhelming. Again, I just want to point out what we kind of already are doing. The General Unitarian Universalist Conference this year is June 18th through 22nd, and they're putting a huge focus on anti-poverty and the Poor People's Campaign that's still going strong since the 60s. Martin Luther King Jr. set that up. There's a talk by Dr. Liz Thea Harris, and they're going to talk about ways that we can teach. She's going to talk about teaching how to do civil disobedience. You know, good trouble. Find your defiant voice and use it together. So she wrote the book, You Only Get What You Are Organized to Take. I like that. It's coming out April 2025. And our congregation has a committee called Faith in Action, and they do so much. And one of the things they organize is the Loose Change for Social Change. So who's on the committee of the Faith in Action? Raise your hand. Thank you for all you do. I know that you are kind of a way for us to reach out into the community. It was announced last week that in 2024 our congregation donated, I can't remember the exact number, but it was over 4,000 to various deserving, worthy causes in local communities. And if you have a deserving, worthy cause to offer relief for suffering from oppression or holding powers to be accountable for their oppressive practices, please contact Pete, right? You're the head of the committee. Our congregation has participated in the Interfaith Action Network. And this is a collection of social justice-seeking churches in our community. They meet next on January 29th, I think that's Wednesday, at 6 o'clock at the St. Baptist Church. I guess this is in person. We can talk to Cindy about that. So I've been to one of their meetings, and they're very focused. They have a great network there. They have been lobbying for with the Crisis Center to create a mobile mental health unit, and they've already worked out that instead of 911, where people with guns might show up in nonviolent situations, the mobile mental health unit will show up. These trained volunteers will know how to de-escalate in a crisis instead of escalate. This will de-burden the police and save lives. I'm so excited for that. So I don't know what you get excited about. Like, follow your bliss. What brings you joy? Or follow what gets you pissed. What upsets you? Ask yourself internally what speaks to you in any of the things that I've been saying. And then let's start talking as a congregation where we're going to focus. We can be a people so bold. I believe it's our calling. I believe it's the core of our religion. And I believe in us. I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you. That was I liked it, and I love your hat. So I got to get one. Now's the time for our offering. We choose to welcome the Spirit of life, join in our aliveness, and share our resources. This month, we're sharing our Loose Change for Social Change offering with the Northwest Indiana Pride Fest. So
So this is the last Sunday of the month. This is the last collection for the Pride Fest. It's an interfaith Pride Fest, locally with the Methodist Church. So this is the last week for that. And I just want to thank Ruth and say something. All of you were members of Faith in Action because all of you put money in the tin cups for Loose Change for Social Change. And in 2024, you all raised over $6,900. Awesome job.
the baskets go to the church, and the cups are for the loose change. for your gifts, for your prayers, your presence, your service, and your gifts. We thank you. Really appreciate it. All righty. Okay, announcements. On Tyranny Study and Action Group, on February 27th at 6 p.m., the Faith in Action Ministry of the First Unitarian will be hosting the first meeting of the On Tyranny Study and Action Group. This first meeting will be in person at the church in order to allow participants to pick up their copy of Timothy Snyder's book, On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century, and other related materials. That evening, we will also discuss the purposes of the group and get to know each other as we set out to do this work together. If you have any questions, please see Sandy Waters or Terry Dubois, and look forward to seeing you there. Okay, Citizens for Sustainable Hobart, in conjunction with our church and other collection sites in Hobart, has collected less than 200 pounds of the 1,000-pound goal that needs to be met by July to make a bench for the Shirley Hines Land Trust. We are not suggesting to use more plastic in order to bring it back, but to bring what you have to church to place in a collection bin. And please consider if you have relatives or friends who could collect their plastic bags for you to bring to the collection box. You know, the one where you're bringing all the plastic, whatever. Okay. Do it. Faith in Action is planning a trip to Asheville, North Carolina, the third week of May, to help with hurricane cleanup. If we would like to stay and eat for free in their if we would like to, we can do that in their bunk cabin base. If you're interested, please let Michelle or Pete know after service today. That sounds very good. We will have a thank you letter to the Bishop Marianne Edgar Budd, who spoke at the inaugural prayer service on Monday, to no avail, to sign in the parish hall after service today. Please see Sandy if you would like to add your name to it. And we'll be having a pledge drive kickoff dinner after service on February 16th, and all are welcome to join us. So, now please rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 170, We Are a Gentle, Angry People. Especially after this week.
Sing
And our closing words are by Wayne P. Arneson. Take courage, friend. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. so good. I don't want to extinguish the chalice. I want an encore. That was great. Hi. Okay, but now I have to invite you to join me in reciting the words in blue as we extinguish this chalice. May we continue to carry in our hearts light of truth, warmth of community, and the fire of commitment until we are together again.
So, as Ruth said, she was wrapping up our 5-week series. We'll be having a discussion down here. I'll bring in some chairs for either this morning or any of the weeks of the series about anything that it spoke to about your own spiritual journey or anything you're wrestling with around the stuff that Ruth talked about. And we'll do that in 15 minutes, so at 12:25. So drink your beverages, whatever snacks you want to ingest, and then come on in and join us for discussion.